The other day you were talking about a little blast in the past. You were talking about the joint practice that you guys had with the Minnesota Vikings back in the day.
I love when, you know, visiting teams come up. We used to have the Vikings. We used to go to the Vikings until we started fighting every year. That just a different meal threw that out the window. And man, I tell you what, that training camp where we had who was the Brock Lesnar? Remember Brock
Lesnar.
Lesnar, right?
Yeah.
Lesnar was on with the Vikings. Randy Moss, and when I'm telling you, it was a brawl all single practice. It was crazy. Yeah, it was absolutely crazy. And so that was a good times, man. That was absolute good times.
I mean, it would be fun to have a WWF wrestler on your squad too. I mean, you get jacked up about that too.
Absolutely, absolutely. And look, and Jonathan Ingram, okay, our starting center at the time. Now he was a backup center to Casey Wigman. Jonathan Ingram picked up Brock Lesnar and slammed him on his back. Okay,
Wow.
so shout out to Jonathan Ingram for that, man. I remember that big brawl we had, man. He absolutely scooped up Brock Lesnar and put him on his back. So
Is that what started the brawl?
no, what started the brawl was it was a cheap shot on Billy Baber, tight end, and they ended up hurting his leg. And then Greg Wesley absolutely obliterated Randy Moss, put him up underneath the bleachers. I mean, when I'm telling you, man, took his shoulder pads and everything off, man. G West ran straight through Randy Moss. And after that, man, it was bedlam. All hell broke loose after that. It's crazy.
Wow,
Loved it.
that's amazing.
Oh
And
yeah.
they day one they asked Andy Reid, why don't the Chiefs do joint practices? And he had a pretty good answer, JD. But he also mentioned a little bit what you guys went through with the Vikings, a little bit of those little fights happening, breaking out. He kind of wanted to avoid that, but he had a full explanation as to why the Chiefs are one of the few teams that does not partake in these inter squad scrimmages and joint practices. So here's Andy on why he doesn't do that.
I think we go fast, we practice hard, we do those things amongst ourselves, and the guys challenge each other, and I don't think there's a better way to do it if your guys are willing to do that. And our guys challenge, they're up for that challenge. Plus, you're not giving things away, so you can't help but do that, and then you're not having those skirmishes that you get in some of these inter squad deals. And no matter how much you talk, it's still, you put on a different uniform, you're the enemy. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's joint practices or not.
So, JD, you've been on both. You've been on the side where you've been around the joint practices where they were like skirmishes, as he mentions, is there, and you've also been there when it's not like that, where it's not, not this fighting and brawls breaking out. What do you make of Andy? And obviously, so he developed a formula. We're going back to back Super Bowls here, so it's not like it's hurting us not doing joint practices. What do you make of his rationale behind not doing joint practices?
So I didn't hear any of that video at all.
Oh, you
Not
didn't?
one word. I didn't. Not one word of it. So I don't know if it did come on or I just didn't. I didn't hear any of what he said. So
Okay.
so kind of summarize what it was that he said actually.
I have a quote here. So I think the way we go about it, I think we go fast, we practice hard, we do those things amongst ourselves, and the guys challenge each other. And I don't think there's a better way to do it if your guys are willing to do that. Our guys are up for that challenge. Plus, you're not giving things away, so you can't help but do that. Then you're not having those skirmishes that you get in their inter squad deals. And no matter how much you talk, you put on a different uniform, you're the enemy. It doesn't matter if it's during joint practices or not. So yeah, my question is, you've seen the good and the bad of joint practices yourself personally.
Yes.
What do you make of the Chiefs, of his reasoning and rationale for not doing joint practices, JD?
No, look, it makes total sense. Total sense. And the reason I say this is because when we were having joint practices, it was actually hard to get work done because there would be some skirmishes. There would guys compete. Now, obviously, it's great because you have somebody in a different uniform and you get to measure how far you are competing against a different team. But sometimes, it could be, counterproductive, right? Especially if guys are fighting over here, and then of course if the team is, decides not to, I don't know, like the Vikings would. Let me give you some of the things they would do. So they would like switch fields on us. like at the last second, right? Like just like silly stuff. Like, oh, we want to work on like short yardage and goal line. No, we want to work on this and third and we're like, dude, did y'all not speak about this before we got here? And it just seemed like they just wanted to kind of take over their own stuff. And I remember when that whole deal happened with them, Dick Vermeil brought us all together. He said, man, I want everybody to get on the bus. This is horrible. The way that we just acted and the way that they acted, we cannot get any type of work done whatsoever. He said, we'll never do this again. And we did. We got on the buses. I don't even know if we took showers or not, man. We got on the bus from Mankato and head right back up to River Falls. So that's about a 2.5 hour drive, or about a 2 hour drive, I think. But yeah, he was not happy at all after that whole practice. And it was because you just couldn't get any type of work done. Guys were just fighting. And then you're talking about guys who try to make the team. If they're, obviously we had Greg Wesley who absolutely ran straight through Randy Moss. They wanted to protect their big stars. Could you imagine somebody at a joint practice laying into a Travis Kelce or a Patrick Mahomes? Can't happen. Not before the season. And so he's like, look, instead of doing that, let's go ahead and take care of the stuff we need to take care of. We don't need another team to do that. We are the standard. We are the barometer here in the NFL. And so I agree with Andy on that. I do. Wholeheartedly. But I tell you what, Marcus, hey, those fights were fun, man. I loved every bit of it. Loved every bit of it. That competition in the fights, man. That's just so.
I'm sure you did. Well, so with that, like, because you mentioned I don't want to give anything away, and my retort, I get that, but my retort is when you're playing in preseason. I mean, like those are practice games. You are kind of giving away a little bit what you're doing. What do you make of that aspect of it, JD, where he says he doesn't want to give things away? I mean, because preseason football, you are giving stuff away.
Somewhat, but you could be, pretty vanilla in some of the things that you do, right? Some of the things that teams already know that you do well, you could keep doing them. And so part of it is just still, creating that timing. How do I compete against a different DB, right? If I've seen, Trent McDuffie practice after practice, then I want to go against maybe somebody else, right? Or Surtain or whoever it may be, like, whoever the opposing team is. I just want to see how they look against that guy. And so I think they kind of should give you some indication where a guy may be in the whole process of getting better. Word. That's my Neff right there. What up, Neff? You see him? I'm sitting over here, baby, doing it up. So I think that's what it is. But yeah, it's you can't really worry about as far as what guys, like I said, man, we're the standard. We're the standard here. So now Andy's got this whole thing right, man. The whole thing right. I love it because it gives a lot to like the fans just to see their team. Okay. You don't have to worry about like everybody else coming in and other fans, dealing with the whole situation. You don't want to deal with that. That's a whole different issue and a problem in itself too. So.
So after that fight that broke out, was that Dick Vermeil's last? Was that Coach Vermeil's last year?
You know what? I'm not sure. It could have been, or he might have one more year. I'm not quite sure, man.
Did you guys ever do the inter squad thing with Minnesota ever again, or was that it? Was that the end of it?
Man, I think we might have tried again up at River Falls, maybe for like a day. It was like a day. They came in and out real quick, and that was like, so they made sure they controlled it, and it wasn't going to be any type of hitting. It wasn't going to be live. Like when I'm telling you, like the vanilla thing I was talking about before, like we're just running vanilla plays. We just want to see guys get tough and get after it. That's pretty much what it was. But when that whole brawl happened, man, it was a debacle, to the highest level. So Lacey Snake says Travis would have been throwing punches. Yeah, Travis would have thrown punches. A lot of guys would have been throwing punches. And look, I'll tell you what, when camp happens, you want to get a lot of aggression out. I could tell you a lot of different camp stories, okay? Because I remember one of our guys on our teams, John Tate, John Tate and this guy named Eddie, they got into it. Well, he had pulled Tate's helmet off, and he took his helmet and hit Tate in the head, opening split it wide open. John Tate was not going to start the very first game of the season. We didn't know if he was going to start, man. But those things that happen like at a camp, I mean, it's just, it gets brutal up there. It gets brutal up there. They kind of toned it down a whole lot. Like now we call it Club Med, for those guys. They really are. They're pillow fighting when they need to, but they'll get after it when they pick and choose. But yeah, man, like camp is one of those times, like when I'm telling you, it is getting you prepared for a battle, for a war into the season. This is exactly what camp is all about. Okay, make no mistake about it. So,
yeah, we saw last year Travis Kelce getting a little chippy with some of the guys on the defense and whatnot, and Mahomes as well. Obviously, not the extent as John Tate was, but I mean, it was getting chippy to, I guess, 2024 standards, right, JD?
Yeah.
guys barking at each other, like hitting their shoulder pads.
That's it. Yeah, a little pushing here and there. What are they gonna say to Travis? Oh, I seen you on tour with Taylor, and you come back softer than what you were. I mean, I'm sure you're gonna have some silly talk, man. But I'm telling you, like camp is one of those times I'll never forget it, man. I got tons and tons of stories of just camp. The highs and the lows of it, really. So
if you were coaching today, and obviously, Andy has his own formula or whatnot, but you played. So like, what would you do joint practice? Do you think there's some benefit out of it, or do you kind of like where Andy's coming from as far as his formula?
If I'm world champs and I know I have the best QB and tight end and the guys out there running backs, Pacheco, the defense, I might not want to chance it. I agree with Andy on this one. And so if you're a team that's trying to, at least, make some type of, push to be better, obviously you just want to see where you are, right? So Carolina would be great to have, a joint practice with somebody. Chicago Bears, because you don't quite know who you have. So Caleb Williams would be a big draw to bring guys in. I would even say Green Bay Packers, another one. I had to say it because my nephew's on here. But yeah, I just think that certain teams may want to do that route because you just want to see gauge how you are against other guys.
Yeah, testing to see where you are on the barometer test, but where we, to your point, where we are, we already kind of know where we are, so there's kind of no point in doing that and risking an injury from a tackle or whatnot from another team.
Right, so, yeah. and so like I said, what happened when it started with us was Billy Baber got hit. And so we ended up losing Billy for like 4 or 5 weeks.
Damn.
Off of a late hit from a safety. And it wasn't like the guy was going to be there at the plate. He just made it like it was a dirty hit, man. And I remember that we went from one field to the other field. Once we kind of communed and got together, we told everybody on defense, like, hey, man, this is what they were doing to us. Like, we got to get these guys back. And that's what it was. It was, it almost became a bloodbath. So,
yeah. Mm-hmm. Stuff like that would never happen. Goodell would step in and suspend both teams for like 3 weeks for that kind of thing now.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out the best clips from Chief Concerns. And if you prefer to listen to the show, subscribe and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else you get your podcasts.